How are we going, folks? Welcome back to the Nightmare Cabin, and I am joined by Colin Hendra from Wytch Hazel. How are you going, Colin?
Yeah, good, thanks. It's great to be here.
Yeah, so we've got loads to talk about. You're one of my favourite band that I've discovered of late. And you've got a new album coming out, so I'm not sure really where to start. I suppose we'll start with a new album, and then we'll go back to the beginning and
Yeah.
work our way up to present day, I guess. So, yeah, the new album's about to drop. I had an email earlier today. I think my copy's arriving on the 7th of July.
Oh, cool.
Um, I'm guessing is it released on that day or is it
It's
slightly
released on
before?
the 4th of July, so maybe
Oh, right.
that's when you'll get
So,
you. Yeah.
who knows then? I might get it a day or two earlier. But yeah, so let's talk a little bit about the new album and then go into the history of the band.
Good stuff.
So, yeah, it's called Lamentations. Well, it's number five. And yeah, what can we expect?
What can we expect? Lamentations. Um, yeah, this time round, um, you can expect, I suppose, one thing is I've digged more into the sort of quite honest songwriting. Um, I feel like maybe in the past it's not that I haven't been writing honestly, but I would be kind of like, right, here's some, here's something from the Bible. This is cool. Let's write about that. And I'm not against that even now, but I felt more like on the last album that I needed to write something that was kind of quite honest about where I was at that kind of that period of time. And it was kind of like post-lockdown was pretty rough for everyone.
Yeah,
So I think a lot of it, kind of the last two albums, comes from a place of like uncertainty and doubt. I think a lot of the origins or the you kind of have a lot of time to kind of sit with your thoughts and stuff. And so I think the last two albums, and this one particularly, processes some of those things for like, what's going on? Is it all really worth it? And also my kind of constant striving forwards. Um, I'm kind of tackling with those ideas of like, really, is it really worth keeping at this pace of just pushing, pushing, pushing? With like trying to make my dreams happen, or is this really what I should be doing? And lots of questions and doubts and things like that. So that there's a lot of that lyrically on the new album. I think sonically it's a bit different. We've got Aaron on the back on the drums. This is his kind of his first proper full album release. So that makes a big sonic difference. We also recorded this album all ourselves and not in a kind of a proper recording studio. So that kind of makes a difference. I'm really happy with the guitar sounds. So there's a lot been poured into it. I'm actually really happy. Actually really happy with how it sounds. I'm quite excited about it.
because you've had the same producer for the last four albums, haven't you?
Yeah, yeah. Since the first
So where you recorded this at home, you say?
Well, it was we recorded kind of the drums and the rhythm tracks at our rehearsal space,
Right.
and then extra guitars and vocals were done between the rehearsal space and this room where I teach my drum lessons and teach guitar lessons and things from. It's
So
like
did he mix it, or is he not involved
yeah,
on
yeah,
top
no,
on
he yeah,
stuff?
Ed was definitely involved, but he was just involved remotely.
Yeah. Oh, okay, that's cool.
So he's kind of like mixed it remotely and given us advice, which in hindsight might not have been the best idea. It probably would have been best to have him in the room, particularly for the drum recording.
um, but yeah, I think the lockdowns and post lockdowns, it seems like the metal scene wants to put that behind us pretty quickly because I think the metal scene on a whole acted quite cowardly during that time. Um, I came to faith during that time as well. It was a really dark time for me. Um, yeah, I came to faith during dark night of the soul, shall we say? Um, but yeah, that when I found I got very disillusioned with the metal scene during that time as well because it's like you've grown up with these Fear Factory albums and the Sepultura video where they got the barcode on the back of their neck and you're all running around going "fuck you, I won't do what you tell me." And next thing you know, they're handling a digital ID to get into a gig, and you're all going, "What's the problem?" You know. And
Yeah.
but yeah, it seems like you're tapping in. You said you wanted to come. You're coming from an honest place lyrically this time. Well, there's nothing more honest than that because I think there is a lot of pressure. Not there can be pressure with Christians to just sort of we're happy all the time, and
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
like
yeah.
no, but faith and struggle and faith and doubt, they go hand in hand. And doubt and struggle, it's not that's not a question of losing faith or not having faith. If anything, struggle affirms faith.
Yeah,
You know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah. It takes some degree of of yeah. It's kind of like I think that if it was just so like we're not robots and we have free will, so it takes some sort of decision and weighing up on our part. So yeah, there is that, and I think like the Bible's full of it. The Psalms are full of kind of like why is this happening? Why is this going on? Why does this just feel like a battle and warfare? Um, yeah, it is kind of, and I think the church hasn't done a great job of kind of making room for that, talking about that, preaching about that, writing songs about that, making that. I think the church has done a great job of making that kind of, I think we're often encouraged, and it's not every church, but I think the church as a whole has not done a great job of saying, look, um, it's okay. Like what I meet up with one of the leaders from our church, and he's like, you're a Christian who struggles with doubt, and that's okay. That's okay. Like you're not the only one. You're not alone. And it's not wrong. It's to have questions and doubts. But it's just realizing that's something that you deal with. That's something that you wrestle with.
Well,
That's
don't forget as well, Israel. Is it in Genesis when he wrestles with the angel and he
yeah.
renames him Israel because Isha and Rael is struggle with God.
Yeah,
You know,
yes. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
and the people that the people that never have any doubt at all tend to be zealots. So,
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah. Yeah.
don't be harsh on yourself, But yeah, so let's go back to the beginning of the band then. I mean, I so I came into faith around 2021, 2022, and I started asking myself, like, are there actually any good Christian metal bands? Because Striper was the only one I'd heard of,
Yeah.
and let's be honest, a lot of Christian music can be a bit, you know,
Yeah.
it's like 10 sugars in a cup of coffee, and
Yeah. 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 I know what you
and
mean.
and but I fell down a rabbit hole and discovered some amazing bands that I never would have heard of otherwise.
Yeah.
Bands like Deliverance, Vengeance Rising, Demon Hunt. Oh, I'd heard of Demon Hunter, but hadn't really checked them out. Um, oh, the list goes on, and this channel's kind of gone on a different route because of it. But X Style was another one. And that's when well, I didn't realize you was a Christian band to begin with. I just really liked because you were two things at once because I'm a massive Thin Lizzy fan and
Yeah.
I love 70s rock as much as anyone else. But I remember thinking to myself one day, I really wish there was a band that captured this sound and sort of energy that don't just sound like a rehash or just like a almost like a piss take,
Yeah. Yeah.
and when I've discovered you guys, and you kind of had like the knights imagery with it as well, the English folklore and
Yeah.
and when I started listening to the album, it was like this is it. It sounds it take it well. The reason those albums sound so good even today, and the reason your albums sound so good and bring that to mind is because all of the albums are timeless. And I
Mm.
something I don't know what it is. Something maybe it's the recording equipment today. Everyone says, "Oh, it's digital." It's been, but you've got a real nice, earthy, organic feeling to your music. You're clearly inspired by the classic sort of 70s rock and metal albums, but you're not rehashing it and regurgitating it.
Yeah.
And then it just so happened you know, I was listening to some albums, I was watching some videos, and I just stumbled across an interview with you, and you mentioned you was a Christian, and it was just cherry on the cake. Yes, and then it all just fell into place. So yeah, and then even when I went to buy your albums, it was I was hovering around payday. You know, you're weighing it up. I'm like, how much is that? How much postage? You know, all of a sudden, Bandcamp Friday tomorrow. You know, and I
Yeah.
think that you had like a special offer or something going
Yeah, I
on as
think we
well.
probably did a code,
And I
yeah.
was like, yeah, right, it's time. So, but yeah, the band are a breath of fresh air. They really are. And yeah, how did Wytch Hazel come about? And how did
Yeah.
we get? Yeah, let's talk about the formation of the band, and then we'll talk about
Yeah.
the first four
Yeah.
albums.
So basically I played in a band I played in a band called Eliminator from Lancaster on drums. And I had some ideas about sort of like underground stuff. And like like Angel Witch. So I'd sort of I'd heard of like Angel Witch, um, and some more underground stuff, but not a lot of stuff. And I kind of was introduced to sort of the heavy metal underground, really, some more kind of obscure bands, and kind of like just the idea that you could really go down a rabbit hole with
Oh,
old
as you do, yeah.
old school heavy metal. Like really became more kind of intensely obsessed with like heavy metal as an idea. And then it actually ended up kind of leading me back in time. Well, what were they inspired by? And I kind of discovered Jethro Tull. And so when I left that band in probably like 2009 and went off to university, um, I was kind of like, well, I'm going to focus on my music course. And then one of the guys on the course had an Iron Maiden t-shirt, and I thought, okay, right, so this could be a future friend, and we just struck up a friendship and started kind of, and I was like, you want to get into some of this obscure stuff, and he knew like Thin Lizzy and Iron Maiden, some of these classic bands, but I was like, oh, you want to listen to this, and you want to listen to this, and then we'd kind of like swap. He ended up knowing more obscure stuff than me because I indoctrinated him into the underground heavy metal ideas that I'd picked up from being in this other band. And then we soon were kind of like visiting sort of underground sort of shows and festivals. A big one for us was Muscle Rock in Sweden, where we just saw like people our own age and young people playing really old school heavy metal, and we just thought, well, we could do this. Like it inspired us. We were like, well, if they can do it, then we could do it. Like we both play guitar, like we should do this. Like let's and I just started writing songs and we were like, let's start a band. And that's kind of how Witch Hazel started, just the love of the music, the love of heavy metal and hard rock. And me being me, I was like, but I do want to do something different with it. I don't just want to be a straight up heavy metal band. I love Jethro Tull, I love Thin Lizzy, I love folk, I love medieval stuff. I want to write. I want it to be a bit like this. There's a band called Pagan Altar, and I was like, I want it to be kind of inspired by something that's a bit magical and folky. And so I started to try and write songs that sort of sounded magical to my ears. Um, and I was like, well, when I started writing about songs, things that were important to me, I was like, well, it's sort of like maybe it's this sort of battles and spiritual battles was my frame of reference. Like I like Lord of the Rings, but more the films than the books. So
Yeah.
my kind of reference for a lot of heavy metal people would be more Tolkien sort of stuff. Whereas for me, the Bible was more of a frame of reference. So that's kind of where the songwriting more came from, is growing up around church and the Bible and so it was kind of this underground heavy metal, magical, folky thing that was maybe a little bit soft. I was like, kind of, I really like more of the bands that are a little bit softer, not like really aggressive. I like some of these like really melodic, like twin leads everywhere, harmonized vocals, everything really. I want it to be, but I like songs. I like Fleetwood Mac and ABBA and
Yeah,
classics. And so I want it to be like just like good sing along songs. Um, and so, yeah, it was in university that we just started the band and found some members. That one of the guys on the course as well was our first bass player. Um, and very soon because we'd been to some of these places, we were like, well, we had goals to like, well, that place we visited, we want to play there. And so within a couple of years, we were playing at shows that we saw these bands at. Um, and sort of like we'd have a friend of a friend who knew, there's a guy in London called Dave Sherwood who was in a band called Amulet. And so he knew lots of people and we just sort of and then very soon, everyone knew everyone really in the sort of the scene, and that's kind of how we started off. And we recorded our first demo and put it out on CDs and sold. And then someone approached us
selling
to
that on the merch stand at gigs and stuff like
yeah,
that.
and
Yeah.
someone approached us to make cassette tapes, which blew our minds, and we loved because it was really old school. And we were like, let's do that. And then we sold them mostly to Germans. We were again blew our minds. We were like, why do all these Germans want to buy our cassette tape of two songs that are badly recorded? So yeah,
I'm sure there's someone somewhere as well on a messaging board saying that cassette was the best thing you ever did.
there is people
Are you
who say
sold
that.
out after that?
Yeah, yeah,
So, yeah, right, let's get into the first album then, Prelude.
yeah,
Um, yeah, I mean, to me, yeah, this is the statement of intent, really, and it's like you've laid down what you want to do on this first album, and then you've just built upon it with every album that's followed,
yeah,
in my eyes. But yeah, I mean, you've got the folk element as well. Like the song
yeah,
like Psalm is just a beautiful song, and a early Genesis actually is I hear a lot of in you're not like all widdly widdly and you know I think there's room for that if you wanted to go down that route.
yeah.
If you did want to go, you mentioned Jeffrey Tull. You know there could be a Witch Hazel concept album in the future maybe,
Yeah.
but how do you feel about Prelude? Like looking back on it now.
I kind of, it's funny because there was things on that album that I actually didn't, we just like forgot to add to songs. There was things like I learned a lot from recording that album. Like we made all the mistakes, just like not bringing enough guitar strings and not writing a list of parts that needed to be recorded. And I didn't even print out lyric sheets. I was like, oh, I've learned them. They're in my head and all this sort of thing. And so made a lot of mistakes. It was a lot of fun. Um,
There's a difference as well, isn't there, when you're belting them out in the rehearsal studio and on stage, and then you're in this
yeah,
box and yeah, okay,
yeah,
sing, and you're it's
yeah. So yeah, I mean, I listen back and I'm like, no, that was a good first release. I'm glad we kind of waited until 2016 to get signed and go into a proper studio and work with a producer. Because if we'd have done something ourselves, I have a feeling that we would have been mildly embarrassed of it. If because I still don't have the mixing and producing skills. I can make okay demos, and I think like it is important how the sonics of an album. It is, like if you've recorded parts and you can't hear them, then it doesn't matter how good the parts are, they're not mixed well. So I think it's having someone who can mix things and actually sometimes tell you that bit doesn't need to be there. You can cut
Yeah,
that.
you need an
Producer.
outside. I think let people do their job. It normally goes downhill when a band starts producing an album themselves, and you
Yeah.
know you
Yeah. I
need
mean,
that fresh perspective to go right.
yeah. I
Let's
mean,
tidy
again,
this up.
yeah, again, I learned so much in that respect. I ended up self-editing about a lot more in the preceding albums. Like for example, like He Shall Reign off that album. Originally it was something like it was like He Shall Reign Forever, and it was like extra notes on the end, and he was like, just sing He Shall Reign
Right. Yeah,
Forever. That's it. Just don't do any extra notes. He was like,
yeah,
cut it off. He was like, I was like, okay, and it felt really weird, and I was like, you know, Will's told us to trust this guy. He knows what he's talking about, and I was like, okay. And to be honest, like, I'm not really. I'm not super like egotistic, and if someone's got a good idea or if someone's got ideas, I think it's worth listening to regardless. I don't have to take the idea, but everyone needs to be listened to. And if he's there to produce the album, then he ought, we ought to listen to what he says. And I think some people may have there was still a tendency sometimes to like throw it out. They're like, oh, I'm not sure. I'm a bit uncomfortable, but I kind of like pushed that aside and thought, no, let's run with it. Let's humor him. And actually, that example and many other examples on that album, it's like, oh, he knew exactly what he was doing. That's so much better. Like it's just, yeah, don't do too many notes at the end of the line, things like
yeah. Let's get into Sojourn then, the second album. How do you feel you built upon Prelude with this one?
Yeah, so with this one, I think we um were very hung up on we want it to sound a certain way. And so there was a lot of pre-production done. And then Ed didn't actually come into the studio with us on this album. Um, but we sort of still had his cheat sheet, because of all the pre-production. So, it was kind of between myself and James Atkinson, who owns the studio. We kind of like produced it, but I was still very, very much like, I want this here and I want it to sound like this. And every song had a reference song, or maybe like there'd be a section in a song. I'm like, right, I want this solo to sound like the solo in this album. I was very much like production matters and the sonics matter. And it was painstakingly put together. It was actually a lot of fun recording the second album. Um, there's definitely because Ed wasn't there, it's weird because like Ed's really good and we had a lot of the stuff kind of wrapped up beforehand. But then in the studio, it was like, right, if we kind of didn't have an official producer. So it felt like, yeah, let's just do this. And it felt like there was a bit more freedom in many
Yeah.
ways. But then I sometimes look back and go, sonically, there's some things on that album. I'm like, oh, I wish we'd have done this, or it would have been better if Ed was there because we would have done this. And I think on the third album, there's definitely an improvement when Ed was there in
Mm.
the studio with us.
Yeah, I think Pentecost, I mean, especially with when Here's the Fight kicks in, you listening to the albums, I was listening to them all for my retrospective video, and I've just listened to them again this week in preparation for this interview. And listening to the first and second album, this album is one. It just plays itself. It's just an effortless listen, and it is this. It's like you can tell. It's like yeah, they've made it on this one. This was the album they've been trying to make those first two
Yes.
times, and
Yeah.
it really feels like Witch Hazel arrives on this
Yes.
one.
Yeah.
But I do still love Prelude for it's just a great debut album. It's you could just see it all just coming together, and that's what's I've
There's
always
some
got.
like I think there's like some naivety on that first
But
album, which
that's
is
yeah,
good
exactly.
in a good
That's
way.
what's great about it. It's a naive energy that you would only ever get on a debut album,
Yeah.
And but Pentecost is the album you had in mind with Prelude.
Yeah.
is how it
Definitely the
feels to me.
most pre and post production. Like I just spent countless hours, even just talking on the phone through like just talking through song by song. Yeah, but what about this arrangement? Well, how can we, what about the latest, the latest version of the demo on this song? Like we just spent so long on that album. There's just blood, sweat, and tears went into that album, and even very specifically how I wanted songs to run into other songs. Um, yeah, there's just a lot of time went into that. But then I listen back and I'm like, yeah, I'm really happy. And I'm happy with the songwriting, probably above all else on that album, because I think it's probably some of the strongest songwriting
Mm,
on
yeah.
Pentecost.
So with Sacrament, I remember of what this was the sort of the well, no, I think I got into the 2023. It came out, didn't it? It was either last year or this year. I discovered it, but I remember watching some interviews around the time of this release, and you were saying there was a bit of difficulty with lockdowns, everything. The recording was delayed and
Yeah.
whatnot, but you come out firing, and I think Angel of Light, I think, is a great song to introduce the band to. If you Witch Hazel, what are they like? Stick this one on.
Yeah.
Um, oh, what's the one? Is that on this one? I will not
Oh, that's Pentecost.
stand. That's on Pentecost, isn't it?
That B-side, yeah.
That's what I felt meant to say. It's like Thin Lizzy. I find it hard to, or like Maiden, Sabbath, my favourite bands. If I was saying my favourite bands, I wouldn't actually say anything from those at because when I think Black Sabbath, it's just a given. It's all of them, or Maiden. It's just a given, and it does feel Witch Hazel. They do kind of they complement each other all these albums, but they kind of blend
Yeah.
into each other as well because it is
Yeah.
just a good collection of songs. Basically, it just feels like each album is just another chapter on a book, so to
Yeah.
speak. But so yeah, and now we're up to well, yeah. Sorry, we didn't really talk about Sacrament. What's your thoughts on Sacrament now?
Yeah. I mean, I don't think we will ever do that again the way it was recorded. I mean, I played drums and guitars and vocals. I did all the guitar solos for some reason.
So
Uh,
you was wearing a lot of hats on that one.
it was just, it really just destroyed me, actually, burnt me out. I was going through the horrible process of like Jack wasn't very well. Um, and so we had festival dates and we're trying to figure out stuff and just like I'd like the end of the school term, I was doing like school reports and then trying to rehearse drums and guitars and vocals. Stuff, the stress, I was having vocal problems. It was just in many ways probably the least enjoyable album to record. Like it, and we went into like one of the finest studios any of us have ever been to, and didn't enjoy ourselves very much. Well, I didn't, um, because I was just so focused on making this album happen. But it was just like I was just burnt out. And so it was really nice on this latest album not to have to do the drums. It was just like a bridge too far. But Sacrament, like I think there's some. I feel like with Sacrament, some of the songs are not like songwriting is arguably not as strong, and some of it's written like it feels like the care and attention's not been put into some of that stuff. Um, and on the fourth on the like if you compare Pentecost and Sacrament, some of the care and attention isn't there that you can hear in Pentecost.
Yeah.
Um, and so some of it's a bit kind of it's weird because like I still spent loads of time on pre-production and post-production, but maybe like there could have been some stronger songs if I'd given it more time rather than gone, right, let's do another album. Pentecost is successful, let's go again. I think I've just been a million miles an hour. And even up until this latest album, just been like, just go, 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 go. Trying to work full time, a wife and kids, and then play shows and write albums and produce and trying to like
Yeah, running a
You
band
know.
with a family is a lot of pressure, especially when you're not a millionaire, you know.
Yeah,
It's
and I like running everything. Even like Sacrament probably suffered because I was just doing literally everything, like liaising with booking agent, liaising with the record label, trying to run the social media, trying to be a good husband, and a father, and trying to like teaching schools and book exams for pupils. And it's just like it just chaos. Like the workload was just far too much, completely unrealistic. And because I had the energy up until that point, I was like high energy, like let's go, 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 go. I was just sort of like, let's have another coffee, let's have another Red Bull, let's go, let's go, let's go. And I would sometimes get up early, work before work a full day,
and carry on.
stop off at the service station on the way home to do some more work, go home, and then work into the evening, and then go to bed and just like do it all again, just to kind of get lyrics and writing and emails and everything done. It was just a bit ridiculous. The Sacrament, in many ways, kind of suffered and kind of like it didn't have some kind of like the naivety got like less and less. Do you know what I mean? And the kind of the almost like it ended up being a little
Jadedness.
bit of a formula. Like there's just too much of a formula in some of those songs.
Do
Uh,
you feel that's been addressed on this new album? And do you feel more like you said the first album was a bit of a learning curve? Was this another learning curve?
I think like the songwriting, if you kind of take the songwriting on its own, the songwriting is very much has been a solitary thing. When I write a song, even up until it's ready time to do a demo, the song's 80-90% there. And then it's editing, even with Ed, who arguably has the next most creative input. Um, a lot of the songwriting is just solitary stuff. And I kind of like sometimes I just like being on my own. I'm a bit introverted and I enjoy the process of songwriting. But this time round, I think I made an effort to um, try and create the conditions that were there for the songwriting process of Pentecost, rather than the conditions that were there for the songwriting process for Sacrament. Because Sacrament was like digital piano, let's go, 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 next song, next song, next song,
Yeah.
write a song a week sort of thing with Sacrament. Um, yeah, this time round, I was like, no, if it's not up to standard, then it's not going on the album. It has to be because I feel like with Pentecost, there was some of the sounds that were better. I felt on Sacrament, but the songwriting I don't think was as strong. It wasn't bad, I don't think, but I don't think it was as strong if you just take the songwriting element. And what I wanted this time round was to have really strong songwriting and really strong sonic quality as well.
Yeah.
So that
Yeah.
was the plan, really.
Right. Well, I'm looking forward to hearing it. There's a lot I want to get through. There's a lot I want to ask you. So, yeah, the band's image, the aesthetic of the band. Do you want to tell us a bit about that as well? You come out in the white um, robe. You're wearing a cape in the new video.
Yeah, yeah.
Where did the idea? What was the? How did that come about? The image of the band.
Yeah, so I mean, whilst we wanted to start a heavy metal band and an underground old school sort of band, I also wanted it to be straight away. I was like, yeah, we'll maybe play with these heavy metal bands, but we'll be one of the softer sounding bands, and we'll play with these sort of aggressive bands, but we're gonna do something different. I want us to do. Um, I like it when bands do something a bit more dramatic and medieval and folky. And I was kind of quite taken with the Jethro Tull sort of stage costumes because each album was quite different and they obviously had a bit of a budget. But I really liked it, particularly during their sort of folk odyssey years, sort of like the knee-high boots and the folkiness and some of the flouncy shirts and things. Um, and I also was sort of like, if all of these bands are just going to wear black clothes, then I think I'm being a bit of a contrarian. I was like, I think we should all wear as many white things and have white
Yeah,
guitars as possible, just to be contrarian. Like I don't really like being told what to do. It's just like I have this weird mix of like I enjoy having shared interests and like always being like the same, and we like the same albums, but then at the same time I enjoy, yeah, but I'm different. I enjoy the like I'm gonna do the opposite. If someone tells me to do something, um I have very strong urge to do the opposite of what they want me to do. I don't really like being told what to do at all. So it's kind of like, and yeah, just being a Christian in the heavy metal scene, it's kind of like, I suppose you have a choice if you want to try and fly under the radar, and it's like that doesn't sit right with me. I'm gonna sort of kind of where I'm gonna fly the colors, and we're
yeah,
gonna we're gonna be the white, optimistic, positive. I wanted the whole thing to be positive, uplifting, not like depressive. Like depressive black metal was like the antithesis of what I wanted us to look like, basically.
yeah. Let's get into that as well then. So it's being a Christian in the metal scene and being a Christian band. Sorry, I said it. I tried avoiding it, but it's funny, isn't it? Because like say Striper are a Christian band,
Yeah,
Megadeth aren't a Christian band, but Dave Mustaine is a Christian, and you'll have Christians in a rock band, but there's the Christian. I'd say the real distinction is you do explicitly talk about Christ and the Bible and
yeah,
in your lyrics. So I think that's the dividing line. But in one way, a lot of Christian bands sort of paint themselves into a bit of a corner. They become so niche that
yeah,
they end up just playing to other Christians. But
yeah,
at the same time, I mean, metal talks about how rebellious it is. Well, there's nothing more rebellious than being a Christian in the metal scene at the moment because it's so cool to be a Satanist or a pagan. I mean, if you
yeah. It's really
like,
cool.
if you were talking about Norse mythology, say, I think your record sales would double.
Yeah, probably.
And I mean, you played with Manila Road, didn't you?
Oh, yeah, I think we did.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, so again, if Manila Road they were a Christian band, they wouldn't be as popular. There is a
Yeah.
stigma.
Yeah, probably. I mean that I would also say that with Witch Hazel is that we've we've been my experience has been particularly with the underground heavy metal scene that we've had the most experience with, is that because that group of people are like musos and they're really obsessively interested in the music first and foremost, and there's just like a real passion for like a very specific type of music, and not just specific, like often these people that listen to quite obscure underground music will often have an eclectic music taste. I would probably describe my music taste as eclectic as well. But like I'm still deeply passionate about this. I think my experience with that specific group of people has been a very welcoming experience with Witch Hazel because they've listened to the music and gone, well, the music's important to me, and because I like it for the music, they resonate with the music first and foremost.
Hmm.
They're kind of like the Christian aspect is secondary to them. So we were welcomed by the merit of our sonics, really, rather than the lyrics being important. I think if people are initially turned off by something that's Christian, I would argue from this experience maybe that the music isn't actually the most important thing to you then. And that's probably okay if the lyrics are just as important as the music or the message, if there is a message at
Yeah,
all.
it's funny
Um,
because well, I mean, I got into the thing through the hardcore scene, and there would be all these bands where like this band is a vegan band, and this band is a straight edge band, and this band's a Krishna band. Like every band had their own sort of message, shall we say?
Yeah.
And it was funny. I would always used to think like it's hard enough because I was, I've been in bands and whatnot, and so I'm finding it hard enough just to find other musicians who want to play heavy music, let alone someone who's going to agree with me, like ideologically or politically or whatever it is. I always
Yeah.
thought, like, how did five vegans get together and go, let's form a band? But yeah. And what? And if a really good drummer auditioned, but he wasn't a vegan, does he? Is he not in the band now? Like, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
but yeah, it seems like it's like you guys seem to get a pass. You're like they're like they're all right though. It's
Yeah.
but
Yeah. I don't think we're as annoying as some maybe some Christian band. No, like for example, the band Skillet. I think they come across just quite an annoying band.
yeah, they're
Come
those
across
kind.
annoying. Like they annoy. I'm a Christian. They annoy me. And to be honest, I think
Mm.
the things that annoy me the most are probably Christians or the Christians. So, you
Well,
know.
yeah, that's another. We've not got time to go into that, but yeah, so,
So
some of the times I've been, when Facebook groups and that, I mean, you just think, I was happier with the atheists. It's
yeah, yeah, yeah. To be honest, well, this I still feel like a very much a kinship most with most sort of heavy metal fans, and most of them not being of any sort of particular faith at all. I feel a lot more kinship because it's like I'm a muso, like I'm interested in music, and we're there at a music event, and so that's the sole reason we're here. And I just don't think like I don't think I even like the idea of saying, right, I'm going to start firstly a ministry, and that ministry is I'm going to use music to push a ministry forwards. I don't even like that idea because music is art.
Mm.
And so the idea that we're going to just it's a functional thing to push forward an ideology is just so it just doesn't I doesn't I
It
can't
doesn't work either.
I
It
can't
doesn't.
get my
Yeah.
head around it. Like why would that be the way? I mean, like fair enough if that's your conviction. Like people can do what they want, I suppose. But to me, it doesn't make a lot of sense because music should be expression and art and just like a creative outlet. Um, and it just so happens that what I'm interested in is, like most heavy metal bands, it's Tolkien and stuff. For me, it's the Bible. So, like that's my point of reference. Um, so that's just how it is, really, for me.
Yeah, and I think it was the singer of Demon Hunter. Is it Ryan?
I've not
Oh,
really
Ryan
listened to it.
Clark. I remember him in an interview, and he sort of said he was never Demon Hunter have never said they were a Christian band. He went, I was asked in an interview, "Are you a Christian?" And I just said yes, and then that was it. Overnight, we were a Christian band. He went, but you're not a Christian plumber or a Christian car mechanic.
No,
Yeah.
no, no.
It's like, can we not just be a band? But
Yeah.
it's in the lyric,
But the thing is,
Um,
it's funny though, because it's like with Wytch Hazel, it's like our bassist, he's not a Christian. So we got two Christians in the band and two non-Christians in the band. And our bassist, he's not Christian. And we have some really good debates actually. But he's like, I think you should really, because he kind of actually loves the aesthetic of it.
yeah,
He's not Christian, but loves the aesthetics of Christianity and the symbology and all that sort of thing. And he's like, I think you should be like, you should really lean into it being a Christian band. I think you should, um, so there's a weird sort of part of me is kind of like, if someone asks it, is it a Christian band? I'm like, well, all depends on what you mean by a Christian
yeah,
band.
yeah,
Um, Probably 50-50, and if it matters, it's the members. If you mean Christian music, then yes, I would say it's Christian music. Um, because of the lyrics. Like, yeah, it's Christian music, I suppose. Um, Part of me just doesn't care, like, but like he's kind of like you should lean into it. But then another aspect is like, I go on stage in white with a massive cross around my neck. I'm not ashamed of anything. So, I've kind of I've lent into it because it's fun and entertaining, and it's a nice creative starting point. You're like, oh, we could have like a massive cross, or we could have like, you start. It's an impetus for ideas, like the idea of an image and how your artwork's going to look and everything. It's nice to have a theme because then you've got an impetus for creativity. We don't just want it to be random. It's nice
Yeah.
for it's like you can be more creative with limitations often than with endless options.
Yes, I fully agree with that. Yeah. Yeah, you got a creative within restrictions, but
Yeah.
you'll be more creative within them. Yeah, so what's tell me about but so you're a music teacher?
Yeah, so I
You're a
teach.
multi-instrumentalist, so
Yeah. So I
you're a
teach. Yeah, so I just teach instrumental lessons a few days a week. I teach in schools, primary schools, guitar, and then I also teach like private drum lessons as well. But yeah, I'm probably gonna move more to online stuff from September. Well, I'm gonna start looking into that at least. But for now, I'm just mainly teaching private drum lessons and sort of seeing where it goes really. But
do you
I've been teaching
give
drums for years.
yeah. Oh, that's cool. So and yet you've recorded a another album as well, a worship album.
So it's not fully recorded, but I've written a
Oh
worship
right.
album. So yeah, I wrote and sort of like half demoed and then completely abandoned a
Oh
worship album. So it's sort of like, yeah, I mean, it's funny because I was, it was kind of in lockdown that I started writing that and finished writing that. Um, and then I just sort of felt like, I mean, in all honesty, in some of you can hear it in some of the lyrics. There was many times I was like, I'm not really, am I even a Christian? Like, you know, and so it just felt it just didn't feel right in many ways to actually release a worship album because it's like, I think there's a big difference between, um, and I think this is overemphasized in a lot of Christian worship music. I was in a place where there was a difference between having a faith and believing the power of and the work of the cross of
yeah.
Jesus, and then being like sold out and in love with Jesus is are two different things. And I think sometimes it's just like clinging to just some faith is really all I've got, and I'm not in a place of saying I want to fall down on my knees in love and adoration of the King. It's like I just don't. I wasn't in that place, and I'm not really even now fully in that place. I've definitely had a lot of a turnaround this year, but like spiritually, but a lot of it is just. I've like I don't feel a drive for it. It was just nice to just do something different and write songs. When it came to actually getting the idea of finishing it and putting it out, I was like, wait a second, this doesn't sit right. I don't feel like I can mean these words. I'm just sort of putting worship songs together like secondhand. It's something that I'm probably going to revisit, but it's been put on the back burner for now.
I hope you do. I hope you do. It seems like you're not quite ready, but
No,
I think this will be a big undertaking, and I think it'll be a big step forward for you as a songwriter. And yeah, I think it's going to come. Inspiration is going to come in waves, and I think this is something that you're going to chip away at probably over the next
yeah,
couple of years. And then I think
yeah,
once it and I'm just looking for an album because I wanted to talk about it, and I know it's looking straight at me. um, not that one. Uh, I remember what reading like a list of like the best Christian albums and whatnot. Oh no, that was it. There was like a debate of like, oh, is this right? Like, is this Christian music? Is this thing? And the charts and whatnot. And everyone was sort of sniping at each other. And I thought, do you know what? You know, an album these people would hate, and I'm looking for it now. and I can't find it. Aha! Here we go. Is that
Oh yeah, yeah.
Johnny Cash at Folsom Prison? And so, like, where did that go in the Christian chart? And
Mm.
it's
Yeah.
and I think sometimes some of these artists they try and write a song, but when it's just from the heart, he's in there preaching salvation to criminals, and there's an electric atmosphere that's just it's lightning in a bottle. It opens with Folsom Prison Blues and goes, when I was just a baby, my mama told me, son, always be a good boy, don't ever play with guns. And I shot a man in Reno just to watch him die. And someone in the crowd goes, yeah, you know.
Yeah.
But then he's finishing with, with Greystone Chapel and Green Green Grass of Harlem, and he finishes with worship songs, and it's and Johnny Cash wasn't an angel, and he never claimed to be one, but he always
No.
wore it on his heart and on his sleeve that he believed and
Yeah.
had that redemption story with it. And I wonder if your album will be slightly set apart, where it'll be something a bit more. It'll be. I don't know. I think the album's going to be special when you do come around to completing it because it'll
Yeah.
be.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah. Because I think again, it's right, I want to do a worship album, but I don't want it to be cookie cutter
Yeah,
someone else. I want it to be a bit different because I want it to reflect my
I
personality.
think you want it to. It's you want an album that someone who wouldn't even normally listen to that sort of type of music would go, "This is just great, regardless."
Yeah.
It appeals to people that I wouldn't even listen to this sort of album, but I can't stop playing it. That sort of
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
So you just completed a couple of dates with opening for Michael Schenker. How was that?
Yeah, really good. Yeah. The shows went just like it just went I was sort of we put a lot of preparation into it, but it just went really smoothly. It went really well. Every show was just great, good fun. Our mission was to sort of win over the audience, which was probably 95% not heard of us at all. And we had a great reception, so that was really nice. It was really nice to have that. So yeah, it's great fun, and we got to see Michael Schenker every night, so that's a bonus.
Yeah, yeah, that's a bargain. You didn't have to pay. Yeah. Um. So yeah, the album is out on the 4th of July. Number five, Lamentations. And what else have you got in the pipeline?
Yeah, I mean, it's what else have we got in the pipeline? I mean, we've got festival dates
Okay.
in terms of shows and stuff. Um, so we're playing at Alcatraz Festival in Belgium. Um, in a couple of weeks, we're playing in Sweden, Time to Rock Festival. I think like Y&T are playing some good, fairly
Oh
big
yeah.
bands. Um, Michael Schenker again. And then we've got Troon Festival in Winter Storm Fest in Scotland. And then we've got a show in France. I think it's called We Still Fest. Yeah, we got like a bunch of stuff happening. So I think yeah, we're gonna maybe 4 or 5 more shows this year, and then some stuff that we're working on for next year, which we can't really announce yet. But we're working on like tour stuff and big festival dates and things like that. Really,
Oh, good. Well,
yeah,
I hope to see you in London soon.
yeah,
And
working on that as well.
cool. Well, are you going to see? Have you seen Maiden, or are you going to see Maiden on this current tour?
I didn't really. I saw Maiden uh maybe a couple of years ago with Nico. I don't know. I don't have like a real drive with this new drummer to go and see Maiden. Like
Oh,
I feel like he wasn't the right choice for Maiden, and I'm kind of like, I don't know. I'm just not super inspired about going to see them. You know,
okay. Right, that was going to lead me to my last question. But what's your favourite Maiden album?
My favorite Maiden album. I mean, it really has to be Number of the Beast. As much as I listen to like Peace of Mind and Power Slave, probably more nowadays. Um, there's something about Number of the Beast. It got me as the first Maiden album I listened to, and
Don't you know the devil's in that album? Yeah,
yeah, no, I love Number of the Beast. It's where it's at really for me.
yeah. Oh, let's go for it then. Go on. Favorite Thin Lizzy album as well. That's a band we. In
Yeah, I
fact,
mean,
what's your favorite Thin Lizzy album? And do you know what? I've never got into Jethro Tull because it's such a big
yeah.
catalogue. I never really knew where to start. So I'm going to ask you your favorite Thin Lizzy album before you go, and recommend me a Jethro Tull album to jump
Okay,
on board.
cool. So, my favorite Thin Lizzy album is probably Chinatown,
Okay, that's a all right. Yeah,
1980, wasn't it, I think. Um, but it's just really difficult with Thin Lizzy because I'm like, oh, I love songs off Johnny the
yeah.
Font. I love like Bad Reputation, and it's like there's so many great songs off loads of albums.
It's just one
Um,
big
but I
songbook,
think
isn't it?
something about Chinatown because I've spun it so many times on my turntable. And I just love the sound. There's something about when that just it turns on. There's something a bit magical about that album for me. So Chinatown's a big one. Um, in terms of Jethro Tull, my favorite thing that they've done is that there's this three albums, the Folk Odyssey.
Right, I'm
So
gonna write
there's
this
three
down.
albums in a row, which is Songs from the Wood, Heavy Horses, and Stormwatch. And so those three albums are kind of often called the Folk Odyssey albums. The two best of those would I would say would be Heavy Horses and Stormwatch. Um, so Heavy Horses is like if you want to listen to one, I would listen to Heavy Horses.
So
Um,
check out this trilogy, but start with Heavy Horses.
well, I mean, if you're going to listen to all of them, start with Songs from the Wood,
All
then Heavy
right, yeah.
Horses, then Stormwatch. And then, you know, like if you like some of the 80s stuff, there's an album called Broadsword and the Beast, which is incredible. And after that was an album called A. So if you want to keep going into sort of some more 80s synthesizer sounds, particularly with A, then those two, like those five albums are just all solid. It's
It's
all,
hard
all good.
picturing Jethro Tull in the 80s. It's
Yeah, and I think like Songs from the Wood right up to A, they're all just completely solid albums.
okay,
Like that's my favorite kind of five albums by Tull. But Heavy Horses is really up there with probably maybe I'd probably if I had to say one favorite Tull album, it's probably Heavy Horses.
okay. Well, Colin, it's lovely meeting you. I really enjoyed speaking with you. All the best with the new album, and yeah, I'll be inviting you on the show again in the future. So yeah,
Thanks a lot. It's been a
thank you,
pleasure.
mate, and all the best.
Yes, thanks a
And
lot.
thank you for watching, guys. And if you love Witch Hazel, let us know your favorite album in the comments section. Have you seen the band live? Where did you see them? And yeah, and if you're new to the band, go back. I'll put the video in the description. Check out my retrospective where I go through all of the band's albums up to this point. And yeah, Witch Hazel, Lamentations, 4th of July. Go get it. So thanks for watching, guys. And thanks again, Colin.
Thanks a lot. Cheers.